Take two. Hi, I'm Brett Premack, and I want to welcome you to another edition of Jazz Video Guy Live. Today, my special guest is going to be Claire Daly. We'll be starting in just a few minutes here. And before we start with Claire, Ted Pankin, the respected journalist and broadcaster, is going to say a few words about Jimmy Cobb, who unfortunately left us yesterday. We're listening to my guest today, Claire Daly. Claire's going to join us in a second. That's Frank Foster's great composition, Simone, which I believe is going to appear on a Rahsaan Roland Kirk tribute album that Claire has coming out soon. We're going to get to that in a minute, but yesterday we lost a legend, the great Jimmy Cobb, the last survivor of the Kind of Blue session, and wonderful man. Ted Pankin, the journalist and broadcaster who's going to be my guest on Friday, had a few words to say about Jimmy.
So Jimmy Cobb, so I mean, he was just a great drummer, and then he played in one important band after another, both contemporaneously and historically. He played with Dinah Washington, to whom he was married for a while, played with Cannonball Adderley for a while. And then he joined Miles Davis in 1959. He played on Kinda Blue, and he was part of the one of the most influential and swingingest rhythm sections in history with Wynton Kelly and Paul Chambers, who they made several records with Miles, such as Kind of Blue, and with Gil Evans and Carnegie Hall, and Live at the Black Hawk with Hank Mobley. And then they were Wes Montgomery's rhythm section, and and they recorded as a very successful rhythm section throughout the rest of the '60s until Wes Montgomery died. And then he had a freelance career and led groups that spawned, some of today's most eminent young improvisers, like Brad Meldau, who he taught at the New School, and Peter Bernstein, the guitar player, and many others. And he remained an active and dynamic musician really up until the end, into his 90s. I think his last gig may have been at the Keystone Corner in Baltimore last January. I saw him play at the Village Vanguard last summer, and he was amazing. The efficiency and taste and energy and crispness and subtle variety of his playing. He was a great master. And he was from Washington, D.C. He was part of an incredible scene in black music out of the Washington, D.C. jazz scene.
Yeah, I did an interview with him once. I spent 2 hours with him at an apartment in Harlem. And I found him to be a little shy initially, but very warm and no ego. It's not like, I'm Jimmy Cobb, I played on Kind of Blue. He was just, a jazz drummer, loved the music and loved the musicians.
Yeah, well, I think he knew I'm pretty sure he knew he knew his worth, and he knew who he was. But I think to him it was, I think the most important thing for him was playing the gig the way it was supposed to be played, and serving the function and making the music flow and be the best it can be, in any situation. And he had immense experience. I mean, he covered a lot of ground.
He did cover a lot of ground, and we're going to cover a lot of ground today. I want to welcome my special guest, Claire Daly. Hey, Claire.
Hi.
Thanks for your patience.
How's everybody? Say again?
Thank you for your patience here.
No problem. Certainly, in honor of Jimmy Cobb, I would give up any time.
Yeah, he was a remarkable man. Did you ever sit in with him, Claire?
I never did. I only met him once up at Smoke, and he was lovely. Ralph Moore introduced me to him, and I was just thrilled to meet him.
Yeah, he's one of the legends, and he caught a cab, he dropped his body, but his music on this planet is eternal, and we're grateful for that. So, Claire, we opened up with Simone. Now, is that from your upcoming recording?
Yes, it is, Brett. And the funny thing about this upcoming recording is that it was made 12 years ago. I made this record an homage to Rahsaan Roland Kirk, who is a beloved. I can't quite get this, beloved figure to me, and I put it out myself, and I hand drew all the covers, and I sold it on my website, and that was great. And probably 20 people bought it. I don't know, but recently, Donald Elfman, who at the time I was on Koch Jazz for a while, and Donald ran that, and he called and said that he had been enjoying that record, and would I be interested in him putting it out on Ride Cymbal, which is his label now. He has a little label called Ride Cymbal Records, and so it's going to have life again. It's going to get life breathed into it.
Who's on the recording with you?
Dave Hofstra. My quartet then for a very long time was Dave Hofstra on bass, Eli Yeaman on piano, and Peter Grant on drums.
Yeah. And do you do all music associated with Rahsaan?
It is for me. It's not all Rahsaan tunes. There are several Rahsaan tunes on it. I did actually. Was that playing, Simone? Was that playing in the beginning of the show?
Yes.
That's a tune by Frank Foster, and Rahsaan and Frank Foster were very good friends, and Rahsaan recorded that. He recorded Blues for Alice. I did that on it. Volunteered Slavery, which we kind of morphed into Everyday People. Sly and the Family Stone. Rahsaan never did Everyday People, but it felt like something okay to do, because he was always morphing and blending things, and he was so creative that we took some liberties, and I wrote a couple tunes on it.
And you also do one of his later tunes that I absolutely love, "Theme for the Eulipians."
Yes, yeah, yes.
That's a great tune. Let's just, for those who are unaware, let's just look at a brief clip of Rahsaan, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about why you wanted to do a recording of his music.
The shadow of your smile is so beautiful. Talk for thee. One, two, three, two, three.
Claire, what was it about Rahsaan and his music that inspired you to do this recording?
Um, I love so much about Rahsaan. I love the freedom in his playing. I love his unstoppable quality. I mean, if you know about him, he was blind, and traveled all over the world. Like, I mean, he was completely a musician. He just was so in himself all the time that I just really respect everything about it. I love his sense of humor comes through. His politics come through. His humanity is just great to me. He's just one of my favorite artists. I mean, and again, a lot of times, different people bring different things into the game, and so I think a million people I think are amazing artists, and I love them, but just certain ones speak to us at some level. It's just a matter of preference, personal preference, because there are so many amazing musicians in so many ways that he's just one. He reached me the second I wore out the Return of the 5,000-Pound Man, actually, when I discovered him. And oh, by the way, in that clip that you just showed, I think it was Ron Burton on piano.
Yeah, Ron Burton on piano.
I didn't know the other guys. I think that's in Europe. I think that's probably a European tour.
Haba. Europe in the early 60s. Ron Burton was his longtime pianist, though. The other guys, I think it was a pickup band.
Yes.
Claire, how did you get started?
But wait, I want to say, Brett, I want to tell you that I think that stritch that he's playing, the straightened alto, is the one that I'm playing in that picture that you had up at the beginning. That picture that you had up at the beginning is at the Cafe there. Steve Borkenhagen and his family own this club that's dedicated, they love Rahsaan, and so they called it the Cafe Stritch. And Dorothon gave them, I think, I don't know if it's his only stritch or one of them, but I actually got to play his stritch. So I'm a real geek. When I'm a fan, I am really a fan.
Yeah. That's a privilege to be able to play his horn. Claire, I wanted to ask you, your journey into this music and into the baritone sax, when did it begin? How did you get into the baritone, and why did you choose the baritone?
Oh, okay. My journey into the music had been when I was 12, and I played alto when I went to Berklee, and for a pretty long time. I think in '85, I moved back to New York City, and somebody had a baritone for sale. And I went to try it, and it turns out, well, I played one note on it, and it was Epiphany Day. It was a big deal, and I knew that was my voice, and I was like, here I am. And it turns out that it was the horn that Howard Johnson's mother bought him in 1956 or 7, and so Howard is actually also on the Return of the 5,000-Pound Man, playing some tuba. But it turned out to be Howard's first horn, and then it turned out that Howard was my neighbor in Manhattan, in Chelsea, and we became very good friends. So it's a one-horse world, isn't it?
Well, you were lucky to be part of the scene. When did you actually get into the city and start participating in this music?
I grew up in New York, so I spent in my youth, I came in a lot and heard jazz concerts. My father was very supportive of my interest in jazz and brought me to a lot of concerts when I was young, which was cool. And then I went to Boston, I went to Berklee, and came back to New York in '85 as a player, and have been making a living playing basically since then.
Wow. Who were some of the baritone players that had some influence on you?
Oh, it's always so hard to answer these kind of questions for me. I mean, I'd have to say Serge Shaloff is one of my favorites for many reasons. But they've all had influence. I mean, I saw Jerry Mulligan when I was young, although I wasn't a baritone player then, so I didn't connect to him that way, or I didn't connect myself to him that way. Um, but I would say Jerry Mulligan, Serge Shaloff. I love Joe Temperley's lines. I love Serge's sound. I wish I'd made a list because I'm going to leave out 10 people who I know and adore. I think that Ronnie Cuber is, just a transcendent musician beyond just the baritone. I think he's just such a great musician that he's always, when he plays funk, it sounds like funk. And when he plays Latin jazz, it's Latin jazz. And whatever he's playing it's so authentic. It's amazing.
Well, you didn't name someone, but I'm going to play his clip here and we'll talk about him after. And of course, that's the great Pepper Adams. Ever see Pepper live or talk to him?
I never did, and I never met him. Sad. It would have been, I guess, early on in my life, but I wish. I mean, there another one of the all-time greats, and no denying that.
Yeah, he certainly knew his way around the horn. That's for sure. So I understand that you are in Manhattan. You are on 6th Avenue, I believe. Do you have a view of the city out your window?
I do, but I'm only on the 4th floor. I don't have a high view, but yeah, I'm looking out at 6th Avenue.
And you've been sequestered for a number of weeks now. What are your observations looking out that window? What do you see?
Oh man. Well, I'll tell quickly the story. I was in California. I was supposed to be there till April 8th, March 17th, it became obvious that I better get my ass home. And I took a red eye and got home about 6 in the morning. The grocery store downstairs, I live over a big grocery store. So the store opened at 8. I thought, well, I should go to the store. And basically, that's what I've been doing for 2.5 months. Been, in my little studio apartment, which is lovely. And I'm grateful, for sure. But I've been in here going to the grocery store and doing a few things. I mean, I go out occasionally in careful ways, but yeah, that's what I've been doing.
And
When I look out 6th Avenue, I can say that it's been rough. It's been kind of a horrible depiction of the haves and the have-nots, and it has evened out a little bit, and people seem to have been taken places that needed to get shelter. But it was rough for the first month. Very hard to see the streets of New York empty and desolate, and with a high degree of desperation from people.
In times like this, we learn more about ourselves because we're challenged in new ways. I'm wondering, where do you get the strength to draw upon to survive, given the fact that the future is a total unknown?
Well, I'm a New Yorker, Brett. So I've been through a couple of crises, and where do I get the strength? That's hard for me to say where it comes from, but I know that I'm going to be okay until I'm not, and in which case I think I'll know then that I'm not okay. But I'm dedicated to learning and doing the best I can in my life. So this took me out for a few weeks. I was really low energy for a while, and fortunately I had been really getting healthy for a while. I'm working on getting myself healthier as a human, and so I came back with kind of a good foundation. So I've been very moderate. I'm not eating badly or doing anything stupid here. I'm seeing it through. So I don't know. You get the strength, I guess, in the proverbial day at a time.
Yeah.
There are highs and lows that comes with it. That doesn't seem weird to me. And I think I have the patience to get to the next place. I was very concerned for a while. I definitely questioned the validity of what I do. I mean, talk about non-essential. I never thought of myself as quite so non-essential as a jazz musician until this. But it's essential for me, and I know it is. And I'll say one of the great things that happened the other day was concerts from Cars, who is this fantastic group here, mostly Brooklyn, I think, musicians, and I know most of them. Ross Moshe called and said, Concerts from Cars is coming to 20th Street at 7 o'clock such and such a day. So we met them there. They pull up in their cars. They have their instruments. They get out and they play a 15-minute or so concert wherever they are. And then they drive off to the next location.
Wow.
So I was able to play live music with other musicians for the first time in 2.5 months. And it was extremely exciting and invigorating and uplifting because we're going to be doing that again. We're going to be playing. We're going to find a way to play music however we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Pardon me. I think music is essential. I couldn't go through a day without listening to jazz. I mean,
Me too. Me too.
It's very much part of my life, and I need it. So, what do you think of this whole live streaming thing that's been happening? With people playing music from their apartments and their houses.
It serves a purpose. I don't love it because I'm old school, and so going out to hear music is a very important part of my musical existence. I like to be in a room with people who are playing music, or be in a room playing music for people that are there for that. And it's great that it can happen online. It's not as great for me. I look forward to getting back out and hearing people live.
Yeah, there's nothing that can replace live music.
I know,
certainly.
live music. It's its own thing for sure.
Yeah, it's essential. Question for one of our viewers. Do you sing? And I'll add to that, do you play any other instruments besides the baritone sax?
I do. I do all that stuff. I do sing on gigs. You know, for years, I never wanted to be identified as a singer because I'm a saxophone player. And I had some thing about that. But I sang on gigs a lot, but you had to come to the gig to find that out. I was never going to put it out there that I was singing. I think I sang a song on every record I made, or on most of them. So I sneak it in there, and I like doing it just for the sake of it. I'm not a singer, and I don't want to be critiqued as a singer. I just like to do it. I put it in there when the spirit moves me. And it's fun. I'm liking it more. Maybe I'll do more of it. So yes, I sing. I started on alto saxophone. I played alto, tenor, and soprano for a living for some years before I moved back to New York and started and got that baritone that changed my life.
Yeah. We were talking before about inner strength. When I think of the baritone sax, I think of a heavy instrument that requires a lot of air. Am I correct in that assumption?
You are correct, sir. Yes, that's the thing about the baritone. It picks you if you're a baritone player. I don't even know what to say about that. It never occurred to me. I never really cared about the weight of it or all that until later years, where I'm like, wow, this thing is, and some people, I remember Don Payne, a baritone player, saying to me, at some point you won't be able to get around with it. And I thought, wow, that's scary. So I better play it as much as I can until then.
Well, I want to cut to a live session that Claire did that also features the great Ernie Watts. So let's check out some of Claire Daly on baritone.
Please say hello to Claire Daly.
Thank you very much. I'm extremely excited to be here. This is my first time at this conference, and you are quite a wonderful group of people. I live in New York City. I play the baritone sax, and I brought a tune for us to play that's on a new CD that I've made of jazz versions of Motown tunes from the Detroit years. So this one is an old Temptations tune, and this is our take on Cloud 9.
Yeah, very, very tasty arrangement of Cloud 9.
What a fun memory. Thank you for playing that.
Now, I think I recognize, of course, Ernie Watts, and the trumpeter was Brad Good, and I think Terry Lynn Carrington on drums.
No, that is Helen. Oh dear, I'm gonna have to. I don't know Helen's last name. Can't remember it right now. She's from South America, and she's a spectacular. I think she studied with Terry Lynn. Actually, she may have gone to Berklee and been with Terry Lynn up there. But Adrian Ferrugia from Toronto on piano, Roni Barak on the Turkish drums. There, I don't know. I'm forgetting what that thing is called. Who else? And Barbeau, his first name. I'm so sorry. I can't remember everybody's names right off the bat. That's a problem these days.
Well, I'll put it in the comments. What was that gig?
Well, that was a great gig. That gig was called the Conference on World Affairs in Boulder, Colorado. And Brad Good called me and invited me to play. And so it's this conference on world affairs, and it happens at the University of Colorado there. And it's a week-long conference. There's a jazz concert on Tuesday night, and Brad was putting together I did it twice, and some of the most fun gigs. So we're all there. He brought in a very international band. He's so thoughtful. Brad Good is the top of the heap of musician and humanity. So he had this great band, and we played a concert. But they used everybody there. They put the musicians on the panels during the week too. So the way I describe it is if the panel is on global warming, there are going to be 2 or 3 experts on global warming, an astronaut, a musician, and a teacher. You know, just a wide variety of people on the panels so that it keeps it kind of engaged with everybody there. So it doesn't turn into just talking about things nobody knows anything about. And it's a brilliant conference. And those are some of my favorite gigs that I've done. Those people right there, every one of them is just a stellar human being. And since then, I've been up to Toronto to play with Adrian and his wife Sophia, who's a singer. And you know, it's the branching out from that gig has been remarkable in my life. I've met some people that are really the most important players in my life from that gig.
Really? Now, you got a Rahsaan tribute recording coming out. That was a Motown thing you did. Could you talk to us about your Motown recording?
Okay. Another label I had done a recording for Doug Moody at North Coast Brewing Company to promote their Brother Thelonious Ale. And after that, a few years later, Doug asked me if I would be interested in doing a Motown record, which I was completely interested in because I grew up on Motown music. So that was on his short-lived but lovely label. I can't think of the label name now, but anyway, he put out a couple records after that, and so that was all Motown tunes. Yeah.
Got another question from one of our viewers, Denny, who says that he's seen a recent video called Colonel Panic by Fearless Flyers that features Grace Kelly playing the baritone sax with a funk section. Do you know Grace?
I have met Grace, yes. Yeah,
she is a wonderful musician.
She is.
Absolutely.
And she's cool. I haven't seen that, but I saw something where she had a baritone, and I knew she was playing baritone, and she plays quite a bit with Leo P. The two of them can jump around. The two of them have serious youthful energy on the bighorn, and they are using that. So it's lovely. Another
viewer, Open Song, wants to ask you what you think of the baritone sax player John Sermon.
Oh my God. See, this is why I can never answer a list of who I love. John's sermon blew my head open. I mean, I had already loved his playing, but there's a fly in my room. I'm sorry. Um, I had loved his playing, and then he was coming to Birdland, and I went with Tim Price to Birdland to hear him play, and he just blew my head wide open. It was one of the greatest. It was just one of the greatest. It was amazing. So the short answer is I love him. And the longer answer is that show, because I stayed for both sets. I moved down from wherever I was sitting. I sat in the front row for the second set and just soaked him up. I'm a devoted fan there too.
Yeah,
I am really a geek. If I come to your gig and I'm having a good time, I'm gonna stay for the whole thing, and I don't know. I'm a fan.
yeah. Now, Claire, you've been around the scene for a couple of decades now, played with different people,
Yeah, I've been
recorded
around the
in a number
block,
of
Brett.
different settings. What haven't you done that you want to do in this music?
Oh, what a great question. I never get asked that. Um, I just want to keep playing and getting better and playing with great players. Um, I think I'm going to make another record, I think, this year. And I feel like I want to include more of the other things I do, such as I didn't mention that I like to play flute really a lot. That's one of the doubles that I like. Um, and I think I'm going to do a record where I play at least baritone and flute and sing. And if I'm really ambitious, I might put alto in it, because I started on alto, and I do still love when I pick it up. I usually am happy I'm playing it.
Yeah.
I also love. I still would love to be in a great funk band. I love playing funk. Um, I I love playing free jazz. See, that's just a weird thing. I know that I'm hard to categorize because I I love playing free jazz too. So, I've been doing more of that as I've gotten older in life, because it's a really fun way to express oneself. So, more of that too.
Absolutely. A viewer, Wyatt Thury, wants to know, what is your practice schedule and what do you recommend for people learning the baritone?
Okay, great question. Bad time to ask it, because really during this pandemic 2.5 months, my practice schedule has been less than something to brag about. Um, uh, what I would recommend to anybody starting is to get a good foundation. Get lessons with somebody who can really show you how to play the horn correctly, because if you're self-teaching and you have some bad habits, they will limit you at some point. They limit you down the line. And I'm a big proponent of just get the right instruction early on how to play the instrument. I feel that that's what I got from Joe Viola when I studied with him. And I think that's really important. My own practicing, in theory, because I swear my practicing's been, I don't even know what to say, spotty throughout this pandemic, for various reasons, and it's okay. It's okay. But one of my basic things, and I think that Lenny Pickett said this, or I think that's who I originally heard it from, to split your practice time in thirds. So if you have an hour, you'd spend 20 minutes on sound and tone production, sound, overtones, long tones, just making sound, really developing a sound and an embouchure. 1/3 of your time on technique, and 1/3 of your time playing music, whatever that means, working on tunes, playing free, experimenting, etudes, soloing, whatever, whatever, however you interpret just music, transcribing, very important. So that's a basic thing that I teach first. I also do teach, and I'm going to be teaching on Zoom and Skype and FaceTime. So get in touch.
Well, how can people get in touch with you if they're interested in studying?
I'm going to be putting up some kind of an ad soon, but basically just get in touch with me. So they can email me at, do I say it?
Yes, you can say it.
cdbjazz@aol.com. I know I'm the last person left on AOL. You can contact me on Instagram. You can contact me I'm on Facebook. What else is there? Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I don't see the Twitter messages that often, but the best way is probably Instagram or email.
Yeah, well, it's a social media world, and I hope some of our viewers who are interested in studying Claire will reach out to her. I know that Jimmy Heath once told me that teaching is learning. What do you get from teaching?
Usually that. When you have to explain something to someone else, it just becomes more clear to you every time. I also get, one of the things I love about teaching is when that moment when you see the light go on for somebody about, it could be just some little thing. And it just, all you have to do is, if as a teacher, I just have the patience to find where they are and see if I can get them one more thing that makes a light come on. That's a beautiful moment. Yes, and I also see myself in students when I see them get excited about something, or I see them, again, that light go on. I don't know, it's kind of like you relive it yourself when you see it happen for somebody else.
Yeah, teaching is a very special thing. I've done some teaching, and that light bulb moment is fantastic. I mean,
it's a high, right?
When it all comes together. Claire, I can't thank you enough for stopping by and sharing some time with us. I know that many people do not know your music. Hopefully they'll have heard something and seen something on here that will lead them to go to your website, go to iTunes, go to YouTube, and learn more about Claire Daly, who's an amazingly talented baritone sax player and a wonderful person as well. So thanks so much, Claire.
Brett, thank you so much. It's great to see you, and thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
We'll be back tomorrow with Lou Tabakin. So long, everybody. Stay safe